From the Columbia University Language Resource Center, this is Said and Done, the podcast about languages and the people who speak them. This is Said and Done. I'm Chris Kaiser, and joining me is Liesanggoro, who's teaching Indonesian at Columbia University as a Fulbright Foreign Language TA in the 2023-2024 academic year. In this conversation, we speak about the fascinating connection between language and sports. Liam discusses how language is used in playing badminton and basketball, both in Indonesia and in the US. We also talk about how playing sports can be a good way for a person studying or living abroad to engage with others, acquire new linguistic forms, and become part of a community. Here's my conversation with Liam Liesanggoro. Liam, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. You are the Indonesian teacher here at Columbia for the current academic year through the Fulbright program. And you and I have gotten to know each other here at the Language Resource Center. And today, I want to talk with you a little bit about language teaching, and also sports, and how much you love sports and how you relate sports and language use and language teaching. So why don't we start off with you telling me a little bit about yourself, your background, where you grew up, and also the languages that you spoke growing up.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for having me. My name is Liam Liesanggoro, and people usually call me Liam. I've always been interested in language since I was a kid because my mother is a language teacher. She is an English teacher. So since I was a kid, I've always been drawn to English reading, English songs, and also movies. And I started to learn English seriously when I was in college. I went to Satya Wacana, and they have a very good English language education program. And from there, it grew my passion of teaching also.
So you said that your mother was an English teacher?
Yes, she was.
And so did you have any exposure to English through her as you were growing up?
Yes. She basically forced me to finish the grammar exercises, vocabulary exercises. Not really forced, but like strongly recommended.
Okay. And did she speak English with you as well when you were growing up to some extent?
Yes, she did a little bit, but mostly because she wanted to give all her children the exposure of English, because at school we didn't really get it.
Right, gotcha. And then where did you grow up within Indonesia? What was the name of the area where you grew up?
I was born in Yogyakarta, or people usually call it Jogja. It's a city in the island of Java. I think it is an hour flight away from Jakarta, the capital. It's a student city, so we have many schools, many universities, and we are very famous for that. The city is not too big, not too small. Probably it's like Boston.
And so the context that you grew up was a college town, or a big college town like Boston is.
Yes.
And so what was the, linguistic fabric of that town? What language did people tend to speak? How did they communicate? I know that in Indonesia there's a strong presence of local languages. So to what extent did people speak Javanese? Was that the local language in that area? And then to what extent did they speak Bahasa Indonesia, Indonesian language?
All right. I think people around my neighborhood up until today speak Javanese most of the time. And I too speak Javanese to them. And in the family, I also speak Javanese a little bit, especially with my mother, since she is very fluent in Javanese. I think Javanese was her first language. So that's why I speak Javanese quite frequently with my mother. However, in school, my school was very diverse, especially during elementary and junior high school. So I didn't speak Javanese in school that much because not all my friends understood Javanese.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a preferred language? Do you prefer Javanese over Indonesian, or is it like a continuum, or is it sort of you're switching gears? How would you describe the presence of both of these languages in your mind?
I think I don't really have a preference because I could switch very effortlessly. But if I have to choose, I would rather speak Indonesian because I want people around me or Indonesians around me to understand me better and also get the message across quicker.
Okay. So sort of shifting gears a little bit, something I've noticed about you since you've come here, you've been here now for about 5 months in the US. You have a true love of sports. You love to play sports and you also love watching sports and participating in various ways. And so, can you talk about the sports that you would watch in Indonesia and the sports that you would play in Indonesia? And then we'll talk about your engagement with sports here in the US.
Sure, sure. So, sports has always been a big part of my life. Like, I think since the age of 4 or 5, I already played sports. My first sport was badminton. I first played badminton before I went to elementary school. So in like a kindergarten,
Yeah.
I played badminton a little bit just at home with family or with the neighbors. And it continued. I joined a badminton club and I watched badminton all the time. My father loved badminton. My brother and sister also love badminton too. So I think my family is a big badminton lovers.
So in the US, badminton is not the most common sport. It's kind of obscure, actually. Not too many people are playing badminton. Is that also the case in Indonesia, or is it a more popular sport there?
Actually, badminton is the second most popular sport in Indonesia. So
Oh, wow.
everybody plays badminton.
Okay.
Yeah, and many people attend badminton academy, just like what I did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, and failed.
Okay.
So yeah, many people can play badminton very well in Indonesia. But other than that, I also love watching soccer because soccer is the most popular sport in Indonesia. We love watching it, but we're not very good at it. And also basketball. I think I started watching basketball when I was in junior high school, and I started playing it when I was in high school.
So when you watch soccer and when you watch basketball, are you watching Indonesians play this or are you watching Americans play it? What content are you consuming?
I think I watch everything.
Okay.
I would stay up late to watch the European soccer or football, and I would also stay up late to watch American basketball because it was aired in Indonesia during the weekends.
Oh, okay.
And I also watched the Indonesian soccer and also basketball.
When you would watch American basketball, what was your impression of it versus maybe Indonesian basketball that you would watch?
I think American basketball is more physical. They are playing faster. The pace is like way faster,
Okay.
and it's more entertaining for me because there are more baskets being made, and the scores can go up to hundreds. I think Indonesian basketball scores started to touch 100 in the early 2020s. But American basketball, I think even in the 90s or early 2000s, hundreds of points are like normal.
Yeah. So when you were watching basketball as a kid, American basketball, did you follow specific teams or specific players?
My favorite team is actually the Detroit Pistons. I love Ben Wallace and also Rip Hamilton because they were underdogs,
Okay.
but they won the chip. So I think that really inspires me to just do better.
Yeah. And then, so you played basketball and you played badminton. And one thing that I'm always curious about is, we think of sports as just a purely like physical thing, but there's also a linguistic component to sports. Sports happens through language. You need to communicate in order to play a team sport. Obviously, you can play a sport like, I don't know, golf without communicating that much because you're just one person. But a team sport, you definitely need to communicate. So can you talk a little bit about the way when you would play badminton or when you would play basketball, the language of those sports when you're playing in Indonesia?
Right. So of course, when I played basketball in Indonesia, especially during high school and college, I spoke a lot with my teammates and also the coaching staff. I was a talkative player, and of course, I speak Indonesian most of the time because in my high school teams and also my college teams, some of the players were not from Java. They came from other regions of Indonesia, like from Papua, from Borneo, and also from Sulawesi. And that's why I spoke Indonesian so they could understand me better.
Do you think, though, in other parts of Indonesia, when people are playing sports, do they always use Indonesian or do they sometimes use a local language as the language of the sport?
I think most people would use local language. I spoke Indonesian just because my school was diverse.
Gotcha. Sorry for asking sorry for like drilling down so much, but I'm just really curious about the relationship between language and sports. Okay, so you're playing basketball in high school in Indonesian, and so all the vocabulary of basketball, like what are some of the words, some of the things you would say to your teammates in Indonesian? And can you say what it is in English and then also how you would say it in Indonesian?
All right, yeah, I think I really love the word ayo, ayo.
Okay.
That means let's go, go,
Okay.
go,
So
quick.
encouraging.
Yeah, I love to encourage my teammates to run because I love to pass to them so they can score. I'm not a very fast runner, so I would let them run and just do your thing.
Yeah. Now, if you were to step into a basketball game in Indonesia where people were speaking only Javanese, would you know how to do that?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay. So with basketball, you really need to coordinate with your teammates. You have a strategy. You're trying to get the ball to the basket. You need to get around the other players. When you play badminton, to what extent do you need to communicate? Do you need to coordinate in the same way, or is it different? Is the use of language to play the game different in badminton?
In badminton, we mostly use like verbs.
Okay.
Like verbs only. Yeah, for example.
Can you give an example?
I use the word buang. Buang.
Okay.
Yeah. Buang means throw something away. Throw the ball away.
Okay.
It's defense.
Okay.
Buang.
So you're not giving full sentences, you're giving this sort of abbreviated version.
Yes.
Okay, so I kind of have an idea of how this is working, in Indonesia. And then you come to the US, you're living in New York City. Tell me about the different sports that you're playing and where you're playing those sports and who you're playing these sports with.
So in New York City, I think it is very famous for people to play, or it's very common for people to play basketball here. And I've read many articles about it. I've watched like many videos about it. And that is why when I first got here, I really wanted to play like basketball right away. And on my second day, I think I went to play basketball in a park near campus in Morningside Park.
Yeah.
And I met new people from different backgrounds because not all of them were Americans. And some of them were Africans, South Africans, and some of them were from Senegal. And the two players from Senegal are friends with me now, and we still play basketball together. And I think one of the most interesting aspects of basketball that I learned here is that people talk more.
Okay.
People are more active in a way that they want to get in others' head, and and they are more competitive even in the park.
And there's maybe more of a psychological component to the game.
I think so, yes.
So you're trying not only to beat them physically, but beat them mentally.
Beat them mentally, yeah.
So when you first approached the basketball court in Morningside Park, which is right next to Columbia, were you scared, on your second day? Were you nervous, or were you just like, I'm going to go and play basketball?
I think up until today, I'm pretty confident with my basketball skills because I wouldn't say I'm the best player, but I think I'm decent. I'm way better than average. So of course there was a little bit of nervousness, but I think there were not too many people, so I was not as nervous as if the court were like packed. So I just asked them like if I can play or not, and they said yes. They immediately said yes because they needed one more
Oh, okay.
player.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it was easy.
So you mentioned there's this difference between basketball in the US, playing in the US, and playing, I guess, in Indonesia, where here it's more intense, more competitive, and there's this psychological or mental
Right.
aspect to the game. So, and in order to do that, I guess you need to psych people out, you need to talk to them. So, how did you learn to speak to people in that particular language?
Oh yeah, I learned that a lot here. Before I didn't really do that because I thought it was rude. It was disrespectful.
Yeah.
But when people did that to others and when others did that to me, I felt more motivated to play. And that is why I started to imitate the way they talk on the basketball court. And I started by basically just copying what they said to me.
Mm. Yeah.
And I think that's the way I learn languages, just by copying.
Yeah. So at first you hadn't been exposed to this type of language on a basketball court, but very rapidly you heard what other people were saying and you started to speak in that same way, to
Right.
repeat back
Yeah.
what you heard. And then, and so how often now do you play basketball?
Now I think I play basketball a little less because it's colder now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But during the summer, during the summer, I guess I
Yeah.
play like almost every day or every other day. But now I think I play basketball mostly inside at
Ah,
Columbia.
okay. So during the time when you were playing basketball more frequently, when it wasn't quite as cold out, how many people would you say you got to know or interacted with in that
Wow.
experience?
I think I met more than like 50 people.
Wow.
And we got to know each other because we respected each other's games. Because when a player plays well on the court, others will tend to want to get to know that player.
Yeah.
And that's why when I recognize there is a good player on the court, I want to know him and like just know the names and just say what's up.
Yeah, gotcha. So it's been a way, playing basketball has been a way for you to get to know a large number of people here.
Right.
And is that the only game that you've played here at Columbia, or have you also played badminton or other games?
I play badminton too at Columbia. I'm very happy playing badminton here because people are very respectful. I think people are as respectful as in Indonesia. We play the game like the same way, and I really enjoy that. It's very nostalgic for me.
Oh, okay. I see. And are you on the badminton team at Columbia?
Yeah, as a faculty member.
Oh, okay. You can do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
apparently.
All right. And have you gotten to know a lot of people playing badminton as well?
Oh, yes. I think everyone at the gym knows me because
Okay.
I go there like almost every day. Even if I don't play badminton, I just work out
Yeah.
at the gym, and they're very nice people. They're very friendly, and I think it's easier to get to know them because they are more open to new people or newcomers rather than basketball people, I would say.
It seems to me that in a university setting, people are more transient. People are
Yes.
there and then they're gone the next year. Whereas maybe in the basketball courts in Morningside Park, you have people who've been there their whole lives and they might have a sense like this is part of my home.
Right.
One problem that everybody experiences when they study abroad or when they live abroad, away from their home, away from their home culture, and in a new culture and in a new language, is getting to know people, being part of a community, having connections with people. Can you reflect a little bit on how for you, sports, the playing of sports, has allowed you to get to know people and engage with people, and how that lesson might be generalizable to another person studying abroad or living outside of their home country?
I think sports is a very good way to connect people. it breaks barriers because no matter what the cultural, racial, or educational backgrounds a persons have, it doesn't really matter at sports, because at sports the focus is the game. And when a group of people playing the game passionately, I think the sense of camaraderie will grow. And from there, it can also turn into the sense of, or the feeling of, friendship. And that's why I think people can be friends with others more easily because they do the same thing together passionately.
Yeah. And the nice thing about sports is that it's kind of a structured context as well.
Right.
So you have a role to play. You have a specific thing that you need to do. And I think that it can be a lot easier than if you just go to a party or go to a bar and you're just meeting people cold, free floating. You know, if you're playing a sport, you know, you're working on accomplishing a goal together. And so I think that that kind of facilitates getting to know somebody.
Right. I definitely agree with that, because for me, sports is also like group projects. We have roles to play, and we have like the same goal to accomplish. And also we have the same proportion of workload. When we share that workload, or when we help others to accomplish the goals, usually people can get closer rather than, like a free flowing conversation at the bar. Oh yeah, that is tougher because there's no context.
So what advice would you have for somebody, maybe somebody who's still learning the language of an area in which they're living? You know, what advice would you have for them if they were thinking that they might play a sport to get to know people better or to be part of a community, but maybe they're nervous about doing that or afraid to do that?
Of course, the first thing is to be good at sports. No, no, I wouldn't say that. But I think just be confident with your ability to play sports, because I think people will appreciate your eagerness to play, let alone if you're good or if you're decent. But I think the first thing is to start to ask someone to let you play with them, or to ask if you can play after they play. And I think that first step is very crucial. And confidence plays a very big role in that first step. And after that, everything will flow super easily.
And I think that the confidence may correspond with actual ability in sport, or it might not. But maybe that's okay if you're not the greatest at the sport.
No, you don't have to be like the best player on the gym or at the gym like right away. No, but people will appreciate when there is a newcomer that shows the willingness to play. And I think it is more commendable if you are being the one to ask whether you can play or not. Just be a little bit assertive.
Liam, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I really appreciated this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.